How you doing, bros? So today I wanted to make a video talking about the number 2 top ways of interpreting the Bible, and then the third way that I personally interpret it. So the number 1 way that most people interpret the Bible is as a book of history, things that happen, at least up to a certain point. Obviously, a lot of people are believing less and less that the total amount of things in the Bible happen. But the vast majority of people that actively celebrate the Christian faith will believe that, everything in the New Testament or everything relating to Jesus happened. This is entirely possible, at least for the New Testament. But when you get to stuff like the Old Testament, where you're dealing with people that are living several hundred years, it can be difficult to believe, understandably so. I personally don't really think it matters because, you try coming up with a story as densely packed and important as the Bible and tell me if it really matters if it's made up or not. Because if you can come up with a story that deep, then you deserve to, have a story as prolific as the Bible, regardless of whether or not it's real. Excuse me. The second most common way for people to view the Bible, aside from viewing it as, trash, because there are people that do view it that way. But the second most common is as a book of science. These are people who believe that the Bible is a book of rules for people to follow. That life should be lived the way the characters lived it, and that absolutely nothing should be changed about the way of life from the Bible. I would consider creationism to be in this camp. The idea that is a literal, these are the rules you should follow. If one of the characters that is favored by God follows the rules, then so should you. My only problem with this is there's a lot of things in the Bible that are contradictory because they depend on the person that God is talking to. Like Cain and Abel, one of the very first stories of the Bible. It doesn't really make sense for one of our most common rules to be, sometimes God just hates you. It's not a very good rule. Or, God thinks of you ambiguously and it doesn't really matter what you do. That's not a great rule. And so the idea that all of these rules that are given to these individual characters are meant for everyone and not individual characters who are on their own journey just doesn't make a lot of sense. Israel, formerly Jacob. Yep. Had to make sure that was right before I literally get crucified in the comments. Because I almost said Joshua, which is not correct. Like Jacob wrestled with God and was injured, but became blessed by God. It's like that's not a great track for you to follow. Like, my career is I want to be a God wrestler. Hell yeah, it sounds awesome, but not practical. And then my personal way of viewing the Bible, this is how I deal with the book in general, is as the same way I deal with so many other great books of literature throughout history. It's a book of stories from which we can gain wisdom. Now, obviously, you can say that nothing in the Bible actually happened. But I would argue that a good story is true in a way that does not matter if it happened. Because what actually occurs in the story is only meant to teach you a lesson about it. You're meant to gain something from it, not literal knowledge of events. Like if we take a story like Pinocchio. Pinocchio is shockingly deep. It's a very simple story on the surface, but it is a story about a lot of things leaving your father's house, uh, showing gratitude to the people that raised you by helping to maintain them when you are more capable than they are. You know, stories about being ideologically possessed. That's a very Peterson-esque interpretation. But of course, it's a very simple story. But we all know that a puppet didn't come to life. Who, you know, whenever he lied, his nose extended, and then he had to jump into the stomach of a giant whale to save his father. We know that didn't actually happen, but we can learn from the stories therein, and the lessons that the character learned, we can learn ourselves through proxy. That is how we should be viewing the Bible, in my own opinion. As a book, and I mean, obviously, right? The Bible, if you did not know, is literally a collection of stories. It is not written by one person. It is written over several different times and then was organized into a book of stories. And a cohesive narrative was crafted out of them. So, what we should be doing is, analyzing each story individually and thinking, what can I gain from this as a man trying to understand life? Now, I want to end this video by saying I actually have a lot of respect for organized religion. Anything that can gather that many people into doing generally good things is something to be praised. And of course, with all things, you have smaller outliers that will attempt to ruin basically everything that you stand for. But the vast majority of religious people have tenets that actually very much help people get through life. And if you personally disagree with my interpretation, I hope and, I pray that that does not mean we can't have a discussion about it, and that you and I can still enjoy the Bible as a text and, talk together about it. Lastly, let me know what you personally think of the Bible down below. Are you a hardcore religious person? Were you raised that way? Or did you find faith? And if you did, let me know how that journey happened. That being said, that was all I really wanted to talk about. I found it interesting, so I wanted to bring it to you guys. All right. Bye-bye.